again. But it's the only way.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It's Thursday, which means I'm joined by Gibbo and Supermac. Good evening, lads.
Hi, Steve. Hi, John.
Sad news. That's all we seem to be getting in 2022, Malcolm. You've got some bad news from Shez McDonald today.
Yes, unfortunately, over the last week, Billy, our dog, has gone rapidly downhill, and so we went to see the vet today, and well, he's gone to the great kennel in the sky, and so
we'll miss him. We'll miss him on this show, Malcolm.
We certainly all miss him, I think.
His interventions, I mean, we had half a Tyneside betting on how long it would take before Billy took you out for a walk, you know.
Yes.
You'll have to get Carol to do the barking and, interfering with your wire beneath the table.
But I was going to say,
John, she's always barking at me.
I'm glad it wasn't death by wires under the chair, Malcolm. At least, anyway, you know, it was something.
That's right. He didn't get trapped in wires, but no, bless him. It was all getting a struggle for him. So it's all for the best, I think.
Yeah, never good when you lose an animal because they become part of the family. And our thoughts are with you and Carol, mate. So,
well, that's kind. Thank you.
No problem, and I'm sure you'll get plenty of love from the viewers as well. Wow, we need plenty of love in this program tonight, don't we? This team of ours, John. I only predicted a narrow 1-0 win last week, and I wasn't far off. I was only 5-6 minutes away from being correct, but unfortunately, John, once again, we fell to a sucker punch, and we got a draw, which was neither used to nothing to either team, really. Let's face it. And Watford probably felt as if they'd come away with 3 points after that, but it was awful for us.
It was awful. I mean, to be truthful, the last 2 games, Newcastle United, I haven't seen it coming. I thought we would beat Cambridge, and I thought we'd beat Watford. We had the huge build-up to Cambridge where we got Trippier in, class act. We were excited. We went in. You could feel the excitement on the terraces before the game. What happens? We're at home. We lose to a third-tier club and get knocked out the cup. We're absolutely deflated. We get a lift again midweek. We get a £25 million centre forward in. Hope abounds again in every Geordie breast. We go to the game with Watford, and what happens? 2 minutes from time, we're sitting looking at each other thinking, this is going to happen, this is good. And again, we're deflated. It's like being at the bottom of a mine shaft at midnight and somebody blows the candle out, isn't it? Pitch black. I mean, it is absolutely dreadful. And when you look at Watford, you know, they come up here, 7 defeats on the trot, and they hadn't kept 1 clean sheet all season. So we knew we were going to score because they let you score, and we did score. What happens then? We finished the game, and we've had 1 shot on target all game at home to Watford, and that was the goal. Now, what does that tell you about this side? And we knew we would concede because our defence is as bad as theirs, and we did. And quite frankly, I'm fed up. It's gone beyond a joke with our 2 centre-halves now. I mean, Lascelles, it's easier to say what's right with him, nothing, than what's wrong with him, because it would take the whole of this programme. He passes the ball abysmally straight forward into midfield to one of their players. He can't defend. He gets pulled around. He defends the ball in the air by blatantly pushing the centre forward in the back. You see it every time he goes with a guy. Shea is one paced. He might be good on the ball, but he's one paced. He gets pulled about easy. We're an unmitigated disaster. And at this moment, we're going on to Leeds with nobody else through the door. And that is frightening. If you saw Leeds play West Ham live, which I did, and they were excellent, I mean, it has been depressing. We have now, as we stand here, we have played 22 games in all competitions this season. We've won once when the Burnley goalkeeper dropped the ball. Good finish by Callum Wilson, but the Burnley goalkeeper dropped the ball and we won. One win in 22, and we've got knocked out of both the domestic cups, first hurdle at home. And that's where we stand, and we've got to face up to it. That's currently as good or as poor as this team is.
Yeah, Malcolm, I mean, we spent pre-match and post-match together at the Dog and Parrot, as always. You were doing the barracks up at the club as well. I mean, what was your take, firstly, on the game? And what was the feedback you were getting from fans about, Eddie Howe's, first time at the club? And, he's had 10 games now. A lot of people are saying that maybe he isn't the answer because his record is no better than Steve Bruce's. There's a little bit of that flying around. But what was your take on the game, and then how are fans seeing this from your perspective?
Well, yeah, he's still playing in the main, Steve Bruce's side. So he needs time to be able to develop what he sees as a fitting side for Newcastle United and what he desires. So, and it's always difficult with only 2 transfer windows in a season these days. Albeit, a lot of people were saying to me how unimpressed they were with Chris Wood up front. And I couldn't disagree with them. I thought he was quite immobile and really didn't take much part in the game. With regards to playing at Leeds, what I would do to try to resolve that, and I understand Dwight Gale is back in the fold and he's fit, and I'd play 2 up front. Because at the moment, Newcastle United are not doing enough to win games. And win games, they must if they are to survive in the Premiership. Draws aren't doing the job. And so I would play Dwight Gale and Chris Wood up front and look for one to play off the other. I think that Chris Wood, he looked to me as if he was a little boy lost, and he wasn't looking to dominate in the air. He wasn't looking to dominate on the ground, and he didn't seem really to know where he should be running and what he should be doing. Play somebody with him, and then there's communication, and then we might suddenly see something spark off. I was absolutely horrified that you can go a half at home, a full half, and not get a shot on target. And then when Newcastle United scored 4 minutes after the restart, that leaves, for heaven's sake, that's leaving 40 minutes of play. And nobody was getting forward. Nobody looked to get a shot. And I was just sitting there thinking, what on earth am I actually witnessing? It's almost as if they're being told not to get forward. And I don't believe that. I don't believe they're being told that. That having got 1-0 up, you give an impetus to the opposition. You've got to contain for 10 minutes that impetus for them to get forward and get the goal back. But from there, what you must do is, and particularly at home, is start driving forward, looking to get the second goal, and get the second goal for heaven's sake. And if there's a goal late on, as there was, you've still got a 1-goal lead. But you make it 2-0, and it depletes the confidence of the other side. It takes the steam out of them. And Newcastle, they don't seem to want to play a psychological game. They don't want to play a forward game. They don't want to play a goal-scoring game. And nothing was created by the team whatsoever. The goal that was scored was an individual goal. He went on a mazy. So nobody else actually took part in creating a chance at goal. Nobody else. They just didn't take part in looking to make a goal-scoring opportunity. This is the Premiership, for heaven's sake. People are getting paid tens and tens of thousands of pounds a week. And what are they doing for it? They're not helping the club out at all if this is the way that they're going to go. And so you've got nothing happening up front. You've got no threat on the opposing goal. But at the other end, you've got a centre-half who's playing the fourth bottom side, absolutely pooing his pants. And that's exactly what Lascelles looked to me as if what was going on, that he was frightened stiff and it affected, and then he couldn't get rid of the ball quick enough and inaccurately so. And he was causing a panic he was causing more panic in Newcastle's back line than Watford did for 90% of the game. So Eddie Howe must be looking at it and thinking, what the hell is going on?
Malcolm, I quite agree on Chris Wood. I was so disappointed it was untrue. I thought it was a poor debut. This guy knows the Premier League well. He's played in the Premier League for 4 or 5 seasons now with Burnley. And what bothered me, I mean, there's a total lack of pace there. That concerned me, because when you play the Chris Wood way, you're restricting your team. He's a bit like, although he's a different man on the floor, but it was a bit, when you had Wyn Davies at Newcastle and they won the Fairs Cup, Newcastle had to play a certain way to get the best out of Wyn Davies. Otherwise, it's not worth having Wyn Davies in the side. If you've got Chris Wood in the side, you've got to play a certain way to help Chris Wood. But even so, and he didn't get the service that he required, sometimes, Malcolm, and you did this, and Shearer did this, and loads of centre-forwards, inferior centre-forwards also did it. Sometimes you've got to make something happen for yourself. And he looked lethargic. He looked, he didn't look to have get up and go. It concerned me.
Sure.
To
John, you're absolutely right.
To watch his body language, making a debut for Newcastle at £25 million centre forward, you want him to be bursting a gut. Even if it then doesn't work for him, his touch wasn't great. The ball didn't stick up there. I will give him one thing, and I mentioned it on this podcast, guys, last week. If you play him, you need 2 wingers that when they get the ball, they drop the shoulder once and whip it crossing, because you don't want the fella going in, having to check, come back out. And I said last week that if you play Saint-Maximin as one of the wingers, he will not do that. He'll check, he'll come back on his foot, he'll go again, he'll try to dither the fullback, the centre-forward's going in and out like a yo-yo in the meantime. I said, if you're going to play Saint-Maximin in the side as opposed to dropping him, and the theory seems to be with the manager, you've got to play him in the hope he does what he did on the goal. If you're going to play him, surely you've got to play him in a sort of 10 role, if you like, where he's giving some sort of support to Wilson and going through the middle, doing his hair. If he's doing that out there, then you're wasting 50% of the strength of Wood, because he's not whipping the ball in first time. And if you look at the Saint-Maximin game against Watford, he was poor. outside of his goal, which was wonderful, the rest of his play, Saint-Maximin was poor.
Absolutely. John, he was worse than that.
Yep, he was
absolutely
poor.
shocking.
He didn't have a good game whatsoever. And you know what worries me with him now? I'm beginning to think, is he the answer to our problems, or is he our problem?
Did we not? Are we doing him a little bit of injustice? Because my recollection was that Watford came with a game plan to mark him out the game, and the second half, like a lot of teams do, they came back out to the changing rooms and they switched off for 5 minutes, and that was the only time he really broke free. The rest of the time, he was running down blind alleys in the second half, and then, as always, he seems with 15, 20 minutes to go just to chuck it in when it's not going his way.
Steve, if he could do what he threatens to do regularly, if he had a first touch and then bang and finished, if he got his head up and saw things and played people in, if he played like that, he wouldn't be at Newcastle. He'd be with a Champions League side. He is with Newcastle because he does what he does, which is flatter to deceive a lot of the time. And my concern about him now, guys, when I look closely at him, is that he's beginning to believe himself that he's been let down by his teammates. And, you know, if you listen to his interview after the game, it was, I score and put us ahead, but we still can't win, etc., etc. As if it's other people's fault all the time, when he could do better. And when he was in his pomp a few weeks back or a little while back, he was vibrant, wasn't he? When he got the ball, your backside automatically left your seat because you were waiting for something to happen. It doesn't do that at the moment. It doesn't do that at the moment. And I'm not disputing that he'll get down, because you look at the team and you don't see a lot going for you. But at this moment, I'm very concerned because we know he can do something. But I'm very concerned in the meantime that, you know, he's getting as disillusioned as the rest of us. And if you look at his game against Watford, I thought he was genuinely poor.
I mean, I've criticised him when I felt he was poor. And John, you've watched Newcastle a lot longer than I have, and you can see a bad player or a player that's not performing as much as the next man. So it all comes down to opinions, of course. A bit like Chris Wood. I mean, look, he never got a ball. John has made the point there. He didn't receive one pass into feet. Surely the other players should have been much more good to help him. He won 2 headers, and that was all that he really had.
Yeah, I understand that, Steve. But what he wasn't doing either was he wasn't making the right kind of movement that you should be making up front, just to get that bit of space where somebody can knock it into your feet. There was always somebody in between him and the ball, and he was never looking just to make that angle. And I found him somewhat pedestrian. Too pedestrian to play centre forward in the Premiership. Much too pedestrian. You've got to have movement all the time, and you've got to create the space to make the angle.
I mean, on the other side of it, I'm hoping, as you are, Steve, because we desperately need Newcastle United to get out of this. I'm hoping that he's scored between 10 and 14 goals the last 4 seasons for Burnley. When, incidentally, Malcolm, as you were saying, I think he was at his best at Burnley when he had somebody at his shoulder. Burnley were one of the rare sides that played 2 up top, you know.
And he's not going to do that. And let's make a point, John. This kid's not going to do that on his own. He needs some support, and we need somebody through the door before the end of the window, because Chris Wood's game is playing in the front 2. And at the moment, we've got no front 2.
Sure. And that's why I mentioned right at the start about putting Dwight Gale in there.
What's fearsome, though, guys, what's fearsome is we're talking what Chris Wood needs, that he needs somebody to be able to play in the 2, so we've got to get somebody through the doors. I tell you what, we've got to get 2 centre-halves through the doors, we've got to get a left-back through the doors, we've got to get a midfield dynamo through the doors, and we've got to get a striker through the doors.
And this week feels... This week feels like an absolutely wasted week to me. I've got to be perfectly honest. The longer it goes on, Barry Hogan made a good point. He says, why are we not looking at UK-based centre-halves? He says, we seem to be avoiding them like the plague, Tarkowski and Cody especially, rather than these foreign untried players who don't want to come. Now, it looks like we're getting messed around.
Is this not the Premier League clubs have got together and said, we're not going to deal with Newcastle United?
Well, we've got Woods.
The ownership. And it is that now starting to seriously show its head.
I think everybody, Malcolm, has got together and they've said one of two things. Either they're going to do that, or if they're a foreign club, the Newcastle United or a Sponge, let's get them dry. Because they've got money. If you deal with the Diego Costa thing, that's gone on and on and on and on.
Carlos, you mean the centre half?
Yes, the Brazilian centre half. I mean, that's gone on.
Sure, I think he's asked for a transfer now, John, hasn't he?
According to last night, I mean, before at this time yesterday, we were under the impression he asked for a transfer to force through a situation to Newcastle. He was going to do the honourable thing and play for Sevilla last night, and then we presumed he'd be on his way to Newcastle. And then suddenly after the game, it's all different. You know what it reminded me of, guys? When we went for Emery is to be our manager. Remember, he was past the post. He had a final game for his club that night. At the end of that game, he come out and announced that he just changed and was staying with the club. And with this Brazilian boy at Sevilla, we've got ourselves into the same situation. And I agree with Stephen, it's probably harsh on new owners and a new manager, etc. But this seems like a wasted week.
It does.
Because we're now 99.9% certain we're going in against Leeds with what we had against Watford, because the cut-off time is lunchtime tomorrow, and we can't get somebody in from abroad with a work permit, perhaps, etc., to register them by lunchtime tomorrow. So it has been a wasted week. Then, if we get beat at Leeds, we've got 2.5 weeks to stew on it before we play Everton, and that's a long time. And as you would know, Steve, because you're going to go down to Leeds, what position are we going to be in by we go down to Leeds? Because on Friday night, it's Watford v Norwich. And so somebody's going to get points there. We are going to be worse off when we go to Leeds than we are tonight, because Watford v Norwich means that two of our rivals either get a point apiece or one of them gets 3. So we are going to be worse off by the time we kick off
I've got to be honest, I've tried to be positive all the way through. And me, Malcolm, all the people who go to the Dog and Parrot on a match day, we all have a good chat pre-match and then post-match. And this season's been the same. We'll go in with a load of optimism. We'll come out with our faces tripping, and, Holly, I think Holly Blades, who does the Sunday show with us, has been the only one who realistically has been to most of the games home and away. I've been on a lot of the away games with her and her dad, and she's the only one who said we're doomed a few months ago. And I've got to be honest, when I got back home and I started looking at the league table, and then we did the show on Sunday, I'm more and more starting to come around to that way of thinking, because especially the Leeds game on Sunday, when they went down to West Ham United, who are flying high in the Champions League position, lost 2 players within a couple of minutes of each other. It looked as if it was home and dry for West Ham. And Leeds found something which we clearly will never find with this bunch of players at this moment in time, and that was passion, determination, skill, and just let's do this. And they got up and did it and scored the goals, and they won the game deservedly. And that really has opened up this weekend's game. Newcastle lose. If Newcastle lose now, and then they get beat off Everton, it is done. We will be cast adrift at the bottom of the Premier League, and I can't see us recovering from this.
But
no,
at the moment,
tonight, it's staggering that we're actually in this situation where we're still in touch. We're 2 points off the 4th bottom club at this moment, and we've won 1 game all season, and we're extremely lucky to win that. And we're out both the cup competitions. That's how bad we are. But we've noticed in the meantime, guys, this is now reduced to a 4-horse race. for only one to escape. Because you look, Leeds have taken themselves out of this. They're 10 points ahead of us before we play them this weekend. Everton, whether we like it or not, and this is interesting, I believe that Everton, with the small cushion they've got, getting rid of Benitez, who was as hated by the Everton fans as Steve Bruce was by the Newcastle fans, has taken the pressure off them, and I don't think they will fall into the bottom three now, Everton.
I agree.
Enough. They will have enough to get out of this if they're really in it. And Benitez is the key to that. So that makes it a 4-horse race. 3 go down and one of the 4 stays up. And if Watford happen to beat Norwich on Friday night, they're 5 points ahead of us before we play Leeds. And if we get the wrong result at Leeds, and Leeds were truly magnificent. I sat as a neutral watching them play, and I had feelings neutrals must have had when they watched Newcastle play, when they were the entertainers under Kevin Keegan. You looked at them, they had 9 players out, but because they were all injuries and there was no COVID, they couldn't get the game off. They had 9 players out injured, including all the big hitters, Bamford and Calvin Phillips, etc., etc. Within half an hour, 2 more were out. So they had 11 out. They're at West Ham, who are 4th top of the league. They've been hit by injuries so bad this season, guys. Do you realise they've given 8 teenagers the Premier League debuts this season?
Yep.
8 teenagers. And that is a Premier League record. 8 teenagers. And it's only half a season gone. And they were magnificent to watch. You couldn't do anything but admire them. And if they play like that against us, it's frightening.
Yeah, it is.
That they've got a high press, they're energetic, they're quick, they're direct down your throat. Can you imagine, for example, guys, in Malcolm, I'm thinking, they are quick, they get round the park, they're supremely fit, they keep going for an hour and a half. Now, if we play in 2 central players in our team, i.e. John Joe Shelby and Chris Wood, are so one pace that's untrue, they will be bypassed, by the way, by this Leeds side. When Leeds get the ball, they will be bypassed because if they don't...
And they do flood forward.
They're so one pace that's untrue.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, John, that through the middle, you've got... you've got the 2 centre halves that played against Watford, and they're a shambles together. You've got 2 central midfield players who never pass to each other, never talk to each other, have nothing to do with each other, Longstaff and Shelby. And so they're just playing like 2 individuals. Again, there's no cohesion there in the middle. And then up front, Wood wasn't taking part in the game. And so you've got nothing through the middle, right away through the middle of the side. There is nothing at all. And, well, Leeds aren't daft. That Bielsa, he knows what he's doing, and he'll have had plenty of scout notices about the strengths and weaknesses of Newcastle, and it'll be the latter that's the long list. And he'll say, right, because they are high pressure, that they are hugely fit, and they will look to work right the way through the middle.
They're quick, Malcolm, aren't they? They've got
very
pace
quick
throughout the team.
Yeah. And they'll want to go right the way through the middle.
And you can drive a double-decker bus through there, Malcolm.
Yes, you can. Yeah, and I really don't know what Eddie Howe will have in mind for the game on Saturday, but
play 10 at the back and 10 up front and try to get a 4-4.
But he might as well play 10 because nobody bothers up front. One shot in the whole of 90 minutes at home, John.
To Watford. Not to Man City, to Watford.
Yeah, to Watford, for heaven's sake. And I don't think it's it's not all the logistics and the attitude of the players and the way in which they're playing. It's a mental thing. You know, and I'm watching Newcastle players. They dither so often through the game. On the ball, they're dithering off the ball. Oh, should I make a run here? No. And there's nobody being positive. The only positive thing that actually happened in those 90 minutes resulted in a goal where Saint-Maximin went, and he went for it.
What bothers me as well, guys, and it's perhaps me being so depressed, guys, having watched the last two games, when I went to both games with optimism that we would beat Cambridge and then that we would beat Watford, and then played so abysmally. What bothered me a little bit, and perhaps it's the depression as a Geordie facing up to the fact that we're going down, was Eddie Howe after the game saying, oh, there was no throwing teacups or anything like that after the game because I don't think the players would like that. Well, bugger what the players would like. I would want to go in there and say, you lot are letting that 52,000 down, you're letting your badge down, you're letting me down, and you're letting the new owners down. And I tell you what, next season you won't be here, the whole lot of you, because I'll replace you. I wouldn't be terrified about what the players will think of me if I start losing my temper. I would have a great difficulty in not losing my temper after watching two successive home games in the way we watched them, both of which had been tagged by the manager and everybody else before the games as must win, and we didn't win either. I'm wanting them to rattle cages. When I hear they go, oh, we didn't throw anything about or anything because the players mightn't like that, I mean, I'm flabbergasted. The players mightn't like that. That should be the first thing the flipping get is slaughtering forward. And you know what? I look at that Newcastle team, and I look at the two centre-halves playing there, guys, Shaw and Lascelles, and they're so bad. Malcolm was saying, what will Eddie Howe do down at Leeds? One of the things, and I think it's futile because I think we'll get beat anyway with the squad we have available to us, but one of the things I would do is that Dummett, out of nowhere, played a whole 90 minutes after not playing all season at left back. I would move him to centre half and drop Lascelles and play either Manquillo at left back or Lewis, who's almost fit enough, whichever one's fit enough. But I would get Lascelles out the team, play Dummett in there. I would like to play him with Fernandez, but at least it gets rid of one of the problems we have in the centre defence. I would move Dummett there. Manquillo is able to play again after his one-match suspension. Play him or Lewis at left back and get rid of the captain. Because some gesture has got to be made to tell everybody in that side, not one of you have a right to be comfortable. You're all droppable.
Yes, absolutely, John. Couldn't agree more. And also in looking to resolve that centre half situation and what you just said, I'm not going to disagree with you at all.
No, okay.
But in front of them, the central midfield has got to be resolved as well, because at the moment we've got two strangers.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, we'll be back in a minute. We've got a shout out to the sponsors. Here we go. NUFC Matters is sponsored by Spider VPN. For all your internet security, Google Spider VPN. They come up at the top of the search list. Thank you for your support. Skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract, free and pay as you go waste collection. Big thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245, and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks also to Arcot Interiors, You can find them on Heaton Road, Newcastle, for all your kitchen needs. And thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and also the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. Thanks also to Jab Signature, jabsignature.co.uk, for all of our posters and flyers. Thanks also to Media Arts for all of our video work. You can subscribe to the channel by hitting the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner. Hit that button and that's it. You have subscribed for free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video. It's very important. Click share to share to your social media and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans or to pose a question. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean and other podcast providers. The recording usually goes up within 24 hours of the show. If you want to join the NUFC Matters cult, you can get a membership pack by either going to the website, nufcmatters.com, or by scanning over this QR code. Takes you straight to the website. What do you get for your membership, which is £25 one-off payment? You get a cup, you get a pen, you get a scarf, and you get your membership card, and you go into the monthly NUFC Matters draw. We've given away some great prizes over the months, including match tickets and a PlayStation 5. Get yourself onto nufcmatters.com and become a member today. During match day seasons as well, we are at the Dog and Parrot. Come and see Supermac each match day, pre-match and post-match, and get a photo and listen to Malcolm give us his opinions on the game at St James's Park. Please also make donations to the food bank, nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk. It is the virtual match day bucket, and you can donate to the food bank 365 days of the year. Please give me a follow at Steve Wraith on Twitter, Steve Wraith on Instagram, and you can also give us a follow at NUFC Toon Talk on Twitter as well. Thanks very much for your support. Please leave a comment below in the chat if you are watching the show on catch up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It is very, very important. Thank you. So I've had to record that because I got sick of doing it, lads. Honest to God, every night having to do that. So and the lads who,
yes,
and the lads who do the Monday night have said, "Oh, God, thanks a lot for doing that, Steve. Honestly, we're on tenterhooks every time we try to do it." So Pete and Chris are happy. I've recorded it and I can re-record it and change it if I need to. So happy days. I want to come back to Twister Man's point. He says, guys, do you think some of the players are sulking because they know that there are fresh signings in the offing? The body language in some of them is palpable. They don't seem up for the challenge.
No, I don't think that. And there are 2 good reasons. One, it should be driving you on to be better and better and better, to be because if you're going to be good enough for a better side that the new players are going to create, then you yourself have got to improve greatly. And on the other hand, is if you're going to be on your way, you need to be playing at the top of your game to impress the people who might sign you. You've got to be showing a real good performance to get the move that you'd like. If you get sulky and you go backwards in what you're doing out in the field, then people they're going to question your attitude. They're going to question your ability and skills, and they'll just turn off. They won't be interested. They'll look elsewhere for potential players. So I don't see any good reason to not do the best, albeit I can't explain some of the performances I'm seeing. I really can't. They are so shocking, and good heavens above it. You'd think that they had never had a tactics session for the past 3 or 4 years, the way it's going.
John, what's your take? Are some of them, just deciding that, time's up and they're just playing out the season?
Most of them, the vast majority of them, virtually all of them aren't good enough. It's as simple as that. They ought to try more, etc., etc. They won't be successful by trying because they're way beyond. You can't see any way that Lascelles and Shaw and Shelby and Longstaff would be quality players. I'm sorry. It's come home to roost what's happened at Newcastle. Do you realise how long the vast majority of these players have been at Newcastle? They've been at Newcastle for years. They played for Newcastle in the Championship. They're well past their sell-by date. They're in a comfort zone. They're here, they'll see their career out, etc., etc. I don't think they're capable, and when you put them together, it's frightening how poor they are and how brittle they are mentally is frightening. We have given away winning positions in matches 21 times this season. We have given points up from winning positions. We are the biggest culprits of that in the Premier League. Ironically, this is a match, by the way, of giveaways. This match on Saturday, Leeds are the third team that's done that. They've done that 15 times. We've done it 21 times. And you look at the Leeds defence, it's almost as bad as ours. They've let in 39 goals in 20 Premier League games. So their defence is shocking. Only our attack isn't good enough to take advantage of it. The Watford defence was shocking, but they still got a 1-1. But there is hope. There would be hope if your side was half decent. We aren't. Where are we well served? Even people that have served us well in the past are beginning to look frayed at the edges, like Dubrovka, for example, like Saint-Maximin, for example. I mean, Almiron now can't get in a bad team. Can't get in a shocking team because, bless him, when he does, not only does he play like a headless chicken, but he looks like one. He looks as if, when you see his face, he looks as if he's been caught in the headlights, doesn't he? He looks as if he doesn't know what to do next. I mean, there are so many holes to be plugged in this side. There isn't time between now and the last day of January to do all that's needed to be done. We've just got to have a huge go at it and hope that something comes out the other end. But the way Leeds have gone recently, the way I expect Everton to go now with a change of manager, we are down to 3 teams go down out of 4. And at the moment, I don't fancy us. And it sounds dreadful, but it's the way it is. There's too much work to be done. And when you study, as you said, guys, when you study our record, 1 win in 22 games, out both the domestic cups at home at the first hurdle, the least number of wins in the Premiership and the most number of goals conceded outside of Norwich. Where's our hope?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it, Mal? I mean, we are starting to run out of hope, I think.
Sure. And I saw a message come in, Steve, at the bottom of the screen, that was having a go at us for being so negative about the state of Newcastle at the moment, saying, "Oh yeah, but we only need 2 wins and we'll be out of it."
Where they're coming from?
We had 1 so far, and we're way into the second half of the season, for heaven's sake. So if we copy the averages of the first half, we'll get another 1 win. That's 3 points. Where are you getting 2 wins from, for heaven's sake? That's why John, myself, and Steve are in a panic situation, because, for heaven's sake, they're not getting the job done how it should be done. And a lot of the time, do they really look as if they're bothered, some of the players?
And
I'm not so sure.
The same person who made the comment, it's Yano. He said, wasn't this all being said before we played Man U? He's saying, I mean, look, we were all doom and gloom before Man United. We got a 1-1 draw, but they haven't capitalised on that, John. That 1-1 draw.
No, they haven't. That was our best display of the season, and even
Yes.
that couldn't bring a win,
Yeah.
but it was our best display of the season. But can I just say, in the defence of us three, there's no more passionate Newcastle United fans than us three. We are like the 50,000 that go on the terraces. We care. In the case of Malcolm and myself, well, livelihood depends on it. The way we earn a living is by following Newcastle United. Steve, you've been a huge fan all your life. I'm a cradle to grave fan. We are desperate for Newcastle to be successful. But if you don't tell the truth, what is the point in saying anything? And if you look at the Newcastle record, 1 win in 22 games this season out of both the cups at home at the first hurdle, 40 odd goals conceded. They are facts. We're not making them up. They're not opinion, they're facts. And the facts are that we're running out of hope. I have been absolutely decimated over the last 2 weeks against Cambridge and against Watford when I was convinced even this squad could win those 2 games because of the level of opposition, because of the lift we'd got from signings, because of the passion of the crowd on match days, because the crowd would drag the players over the finish line. And we still haven't won. Of course, only 2 wins and out of, but those 2 wins ought to have come against Cambridge. It was the cup, it wasn't the league, but it would have half give us a lift to go into the league, have we beat Cambridge. But if we can't beat Cambridge, if we can't beat Watford, if we can't beat Norwich at home, if we can't beat Brentford at home, who can we beat?
Exactly.
That is the concern. We've played Watford twice. We haven't beaten Norwich. We haven't beaten anybody but Burnley. It is getting to be absolutely terrifying. And to be truthful, there hasn't been enough time from the takeover to be able to change a relentless tide that is only going one way. And it may take the summer to do that. Now, whether in the summer, well, it will take the summer to do that, but whether we're in the Premier League, because we escape somehow by the skin of our teeth, or whether we're in the Championship and looking to come straight back, is another matter. But I am beginning to run out of hope big time.
Yeah. And Steve, you mentioned just before John was speaking about the Man United draw. Now, but the pattern and Newcastle, it was their best game, the best performance that they've shown this season. But the pattern was exactly the same as it's been all the way through. Newcastle score first, but can't hold on to it, and they let the opposition score in the last few minutes. How many times has that happened? The pattern is the same whether Newcastle play well or play badly. And that has all got to change. And how do you change it? Well, yes, new faces, but they've got to be good enough. They must be good enough. And at the moment, I look down on the pitch and I'm not seeing a togetherness. I'm not seeing an understanding. The back 4 are like 4 individuals. The middle of the park is another 4 individuals. Well, 5, and then up front we've got a fella who really is going to have to pull his finger out if he thinks that he can get away with a performance like that. Not good enough. But now look at Eddie Howe. For heaven's sake, Eddie Howe, what you've been doing in 10 games ain't working. You've got to come up with something new, different, that will suit the players at your disposal that are there at the moment and get them functioning. And at the moment, Newcastle United isn't functioning. It hasn't been functioning all this season. And so something has got to change and change in big style. And and don't be afraid to drop people. John, you mentioned about dropping Lascelles earlier on. Couldn't agree more. He's a total liability, and I'm watching Shah, watching Lascelles, and Shah is getting nervous. He's getting jumpy because oh dear me, what's he going to do? Oh no, because there was one time where he knocked a ball backwards back to Shah, and Shah had two players bearing down on him, and it was a bad ball. It went off to the side. Fortunately, Shah dealt with it, but and so Shah is a bag of nerves. Playing with a boy is a bag of nerves as well.
Sissoko should have scored the equaliser long before they got the equaliser.
Yes, he should.
After Lascelles' mistake.
Yes.
I mean, it is so repetitive, it's untrue. Take the armband off him, drop him, play dumb at there, give the armband to Trippier.
And wouldn't you like to see, John and Steve, somebody with the captain's armband on who starts pointing fingers, demanding, and going and kicking backsides if it ain't right?
I think Trippier would do that. Trippier must wonder what he's got himself into.
Absolutely. I'll give him the armband now. I'll give him the armband now because he was more of a captain on Saturday than anybody else.
Yeah, he was. Just a little one from Jamie F, because he did put a point up about the singing area. Atmosphere has been awful. And it hasn't just been awful this season. It's been awful for seasons. Now, I put a lot of that down to the apathy surrounding the club, the diminishing numbers of season ticket holders and day trippers coming in to watch the game over the Ashley period. But being somebody who goes to away grounds, I've got to be honest, Jamie, it's par for the course. I'm not sure whether you travel home and away as well, but it's par for the course. The away fans outsing the home fans at virtually every single stadium. It's a modern day thing. We're not quite Americanized yet, but I think that we've become like we've just become dull as supporters, and the away fans constantly outsing the home fans, win, lose, or draw. Home fans sit there waiting to be entertained, and the only time you ever hear them is, if a goal's scored. Occasionally at the start of the game, obviously, War Flags display is fantastic, but then there's nothing. And if the game gets off to a poor start, like it did against Watford, with Watford nullifying everything that Newcastle tried to do, and Newcastle not playing up to the standards, then it affects the crowd. And people start murmuring. They start talking to the bloke next to them or the woman next to them. They start messing around on their phones if they can get a signal. They go for a pint early. I mean, this is one of the things in the ground. People go for refreshments. I know people who get in 10 minutes late, go down for a pint 10 minutes before half time and leave 10 minutes early. They miss half an hour of a game, on average, a game. And those people, if you said to them at the end of the season, you add all those half an hours up, you've actually lost 2 whole games in a season. If you said to them, well, you can have your season ticket, but we're going to take 2 games off you, they'd go mad. And I mean, this is the modern day football fan, unfortunately. Singing areas, they do work. And if you could get 3,000 people in, it would make the atmosphere better. And maybe that would have a bit more of an effect on the team. But I don't know. It's a great point, Jamie. But I think we've got bigger things to be worried about than the singing area right at this moment in time. Mm-hmm. Certainly won't be top of, Miadad, PIF and the Rubens list. But I certainly agree with you, mate. They need to speak to the supporters. And I think that'll be something that comes in the summer. They'll have to sit down with supporters because there's been a settling in period, but they're going to need to sit down with all of the different supporters groups, decide whether they get a fans forum, because this communication's great on Twitter. Not everyone's on Twitter. They need this, they really need to look at that. But at the moment, it's all focused on bringing players in and trying to stay in the Premiership. Because if they don't do that, it's a different playing field next season. And it just doesn't bear thinking about. But we're going to have to start thinking about it, unfortunately. Okay, we're going to have to start thinking about the time. We've got 6 minutes left. And great points coming in from everybody. Sorry we couldn't get through all of them tonight. Newcastle play Leeds, Elland Road, this Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff. There was 2,690 away tickets. Surprise, surprise, they're all sold out. I think we will be talking tomorrow night on the Three Amigos about the point system, because I've noticed in a lot of comments tonight, I've had emails, I've had tweets, I've had messages, text messages from people. People aren't happy that the allocation points number is now going up. And a lot of people feel that they've been there through the bad times. And now those people who've got more points than anybody seem to be getting the option of getting the tickets. Seems to be a bit of a kickoff about that. So we'll talk about that in the Three Amigos tomorrow. As for the team, Isaac Hayden and Callum Wilson, of course, are still out with long-term injuries. Federico Fernandez and Kieran Clark. Well, who knows what's going on with Fernandez. Kieran Clark still out. Manquillo is available. His suspension obviously is up now. Dwight Gale is back in training. Fingers crossed, Dwight Gale and Chris Wood against Leeds. That will give us a little bit of hope anyway. Fingers crossed, but we don't know whether he's going to play him. That's assuming, of course, that he plays Chris Wood. Of course, he will be going in against one of his former teams. As for Leeds, well, they have got an injury crisis, as we know, but Tyler Roberts and Joe Geldhart will return from injury. The injured players include Forshaw, Firpo, Bamford, Cooper, Phillips, Shackleton, Cresswell and Greenwood, who are all going to miss out. So a little bit of good news, but as John said, they've just played 6 or 7 young uns and they all look as good as the ones who were injured, if not better. So we've got a little bit of concern there. The referee at the weekend is Chris Kavanagh. This is the first time that he will have looked after us. And Kevin Friend, or Kevin Not Our Friend, is on VAR, which of course is usually switched off when Newcastle United play. Okay, John, I'm going to go against the grain here and get my prediction in before you guys. I'm going for Leeds to win 3-1. John?
Well, actually, it's amazing you should say that. I was thinking, am I going to say 3-0 or 3-1? And the only reason I say 3-1 is because they've let in 39 goals in 20 games. So you can score against them. I can't see anything bar Newcastle defeat and by a margin like 3-1. I mean, all I'm hoping and praying for is that, having predicted that Newcastle would beat Cambridge and Newcastle would beat Watford, and be totally wrong if I predict Newcastle to lose, perhaps they'll win, because perhaps the result's going to be opposite of what Gibbo thinks. But I can't see the worst thing I did was sit through the West Ham game. I found it absolutely entertaining, wonderful to watch, and I was full of admiration for them. And Rafina, by the way, we talk about Phillips and we talk about Bamford, but Rafina, the Brazilian kid who's on their set pieces, etc. What a wonderful, technically gifted player he is. At 18 million, and we are in the transfer market at the moment, looking for players, and we paid 25 million for Wood, and we're looking at 30 million for the Sevilla centre-half. At 18 million, that kid must be one of the greatest pound-for-pound Premier League signings there's been of recent times. He's wonderful. I can't see anything but we lose and they score 3 times. Sorry, I'm desperate to be wrong, but I feel that I could well be right.
Me too, mate. Me too. Malcolm?
John, I feel exactly the same as you. I really do. And that I hate myself for predicting a loss for Newcastle. But I've got to hate myself again for another weekend, I'm afraid. I'm going to take Leeds to win 2-0. And I can't... unless there's radical changes, I can't see Newcastle scoring. You know, that when you at home against Watford, one single shot in the whole of the game, it's nonsense. And if you're going away to Leeds, and Leeds, they bomb forward. Dear me, they're going to have Newcastle pinned back in their penalty area for very, very long spells. And Newcastle they're not good at breaking. They're not, there's so much that they aren't good at. And I can't see them scoring there at all. I really can't. I hope I'm wrong. And I pray I'm wrong. The defence is like a Swiss cheese. And so, I'm going to go for 2-0 to Leeds.
Well, I hope we're all three of us are wrong, and we'll come back next Thursday smiling from ear to ear. I very much doubt it. Don't forget, tomorrow's Three Amigos is slightly earlier. We will be on at 4:30 till 6 because I've got an event on tomorrow night. You're still getting an hour and a half of me and the lads. And there could be anarchy on the terraces, I think, if Newcastle don't start picking up a little bit. But lads, have a good weekend. And as always, don't let the football spoil it.
All the best, fellas. Let's
Indeed.
keep going, pal. Let's keep going.
Fingers crossed.
And toes. And toes. Bye,
I
guys.
hope we all have a good weekend.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's your